The room buzzed with excitement as the wedding reached its peak. I stood there, feeling the warmth of the moment, my bride by my side, ready to start our lives together. She took the microphone, her hands slightly trembling. I thought it was nerves, the weight of love and commitment settling in. Then she spoke. "I can't keep this inside anymore." Her voice quivered, but she didn't falter. "I love someone else." The hall fell silent. A few nervous chuckles, as if waiting for the punchline. None came. My heart stopped. I gripped the podium, my throat tightening. She turned, eyes locking onto someone in the front row. My brother. My stomach dropped. Tears welled up in her eyes as she continued. "I've been in love with him for a long time, and I can't stand here and lie to you or myself anymore." A gasp rippled through the crowd. I could hear my mother's sharp intake of breath. The murmur of confused guests. My brother? He sat frozen, his face pale, eyes wide with guilt. I clenched my fists, my breath shaky. The woman I vowed to spend my life with had just tore apart, in front of everyone. My father's voice cut through the tension, low and furious. "What the hell is this?" I could barely hear. Blood pounded in my ears. My bride, no, she wasn't my bride anymore, looked at me, pleading. "I never meant to hurt you, but I can't pretend." I stepped back, shaking my head. The weight of humiliation crushed me. I had never felt so small, so utterly destroyed. My brother finally opened his mouth, but I didn't want to hear it. I turned and walked away. I pushed through the doors, gasping for air like I had been drowning. The night was cold, but my blood boiled. Footsteps followed, fast, desperate. "Wait!" My brother's voice rang out. I spun, my fist connecting with his jaw before I even thought. He staggered back, holding his face. "How long?" My voice was hoarse, barely controlled. His eyes darted away. That was my answer. "Months," he finally muttered. "Maybe a year." A year. My hands trembled. I had been living a lie for a year. "I didn't want it to happen," he said, voice laced with guilt. "But we—" "Don't." I snapped. "Just don't." She appeared then, my almost wife, eyes swollen with tears. "Please, listen to me." I laughed, bitter and hollow. "Now you want me to listen? I never meant for this." "Spare me." I cut her off. "You meant every second of it." Silence hung between us, thick and suffocating. Then another voice spoke. "I need to say something." I turned to my best friend, the one who had stood beside me, supported me through everything. His face was tight, conflicted. He swallowed hard. I was with her too. The world tilted. I stared at him, my mind refusing to process the words. "It wasn't just your brother," he admitted. "It was me too." My hands clenched into fists again. My chest heaved. I looked at her, then at him. My whole life had just unraveled, one betrayal after another. "You ruined everything." I whispered. She wiped her tears. I didn't mean to fall for either of them. I stepped back, nodding slowly. "Well, congratulations. You fell for both." A laugh escaped me, sharp, bitter. They all turned, confusion flashing in their eyes. My brother rubbed his jaw. My best friend looked away, and she just stood there, a wreck of her own making. "You think this is shocking?" I said, shaking my head. "You have no idea." My brother frowned. "What are you talking about?" I exhaled slowly, savoring the moment before I shattered their world the way they had shattered mine. "I slept with your girlfriend." His face went blank, like his brain short-circuited. "What?" "You heard me." I stepped closer, letting the words sink in. "For months. While you were sneaking around with my fiancée, I was in bed with yours." The silence was deafening. My best friend ran a hand through his hair, muttering a curse under his breath. My brother's face twisted with rage, his fists clenching at his sides. "You're lying," he said, but the crack in his voice betrayed him. I shrugged. "Believe what you want. But she wasn't as loyal as you thought." His breath came out uneven. "When? Does it matter?" I said, "The point is, we were all playing the same game. You just thought you were the only one winning." She let out a shaky breath. "Why?" I turned to her, my expression unreadable. Maybe I wanted revenge before I even knew I needed it. My brother lunged, but my best friend caught him, holding him back. I didn't flinch. Go ahead, take a swing, I taunted. Won't change a damn thing. His chest heaved, his eyes burning with betrayal. For the first time that night, I felt something close to satisfaction. People started leaving. The wedding that was supposed to be the happiest day of my life had turned into a public disaster. Whispers followed me, judgment in every glance. But I didn't care. Not anymore. She sat on the steps, face buried in her hands, sobbing quietly. My brother stood a few feet away, hands on his hips, staring at the ground. My best friend, no, not anymore, lit a cigarette, shaking his head. None of them spoke. There was nothing left to say. I pulled out my phone. Missed calls. My mother, my father, my uncle. I ignored them all. You ruined everything, my brother finally said. I scoffed. Right, because it was all perfect before, huh? He didn't respond. He knew the truth. None of us had clean hands in this mess. My ex-fiancée lifted her head. What happens now? I laughed softly, shaking my head. Now I move on. She wiped her eyes. I never wanted this to happen like this. But it did. I said simply. My brother turned to me, jaw tight. You really don't regret anything? I met his gaze. I regret trusting any of you. He had no comeback for that. I took one last look at the three of them. People I had once considered the most important in my life. Now, they were just reminders of what I lost. Without another word, I walked away. My wedding was over before it even began. Maybe, in some twisted way, she did me a favor. Maybe she saved me from making the worst mistake of my life. Maybe I should have thanked her.